Yes, guys, I haven't eaten in 72 hours. No food, calories, just water, salt, and black coffee. And I feel sharper, calmer, and more control than I have in months. But I want to make this clear, it's not just a fat loss gimmick. This is about clarity, resetting the system mentally and physically. So that if you are a high performing man over 30, juggling a business, stress, slipping standards, this mini health series is for you. So we're going to cut through the bullshit on trends like fasting, testosterone, cold exposure, and smart supplementation to show you exactly what works in the real world. Let's be honest, if you're a high performing guy, fasting has probably crossed your mind. You've heard the podcast bros raving about autophagy, longevity, mental clarity, and there's a lot of science behind that. Right, so let's break this down into a simple timeline. What actually happens in your body hour by hour during a 72-hour fast? So from around 0 to 12 hours, your body is still running off stored glucose or muscle glycogen. So what happens then is your insulin starts to drop, energy becomes more stable. Then when we get to 12 to 24 hours, those glycogen stores are depleting even further. You start shifting into fat burning mode, where we start experiencing growth hormone can spike 2 to 5 times your baseline level. This actually preserves your muscle mass whilst fat oxidation starts to increase. So you might feel hunger spikes here. That's your ghrelin. It pulses, it comes and goes, but it will pass. Morning team, just with the herb garden, just woken up. It's 9:28, started the fast at around 2 o'clock yesterday. So about 19 hours in and feeling a little bit groggy this morning, a little bit dehydrated. So starting with some electrolytes, which have mixed terribly, and the morning supplement stack. So all of this that I am using, I will put into the fasting protocol, which supplements, which dosages. But the main kind of insight I've had so far is, fasting is an amazing way to understand your relationship with food, your triggers, how it makes you feel on a day-to-day basis. And I was getting quite a lot of hunger cues yesterday. I had a bit of a stressful day with work, so I was really feeling that kind of emotional need to eat. But this morning I'm absolutely fine. The hunger's gone because I don't really tend to eat breakfast till later in the day anyway. So feeling good. And as I know from fasting before, I'll probably start feeling more and more clear as I go into this fast. So as I said, hydrate, get some sun. I'm going to get a black coffee in afterwards and let's see how the day progresses. Then we get to 24 to 36 hours, ketones begin to rise. So what's happening here is you're now producing an alternative fuel source for your brain. So ketones themselves are actually anti-inflammatory and they support the mental clarity. Things like C-reactive protein, CRP, a key inflammation marker, often starts dropping around this point. So your digestion slows and your gut finally starts to get a reset and a bit of a rest. When we get to 36 to 48 hours, this is where autophagy ramps up. This is what a lot of people have heard about for the longevity benefits. Your body begins to clear damaged cells. It's a bit like spring cleaning. Organelles, misfolded proteins, and the cellular renewal starts to begin. There's even research showing that immune cells can get recycled and stem cell production starts increasing. So the youth starts to return is what some research is saying. Yes, team, how are we? Day 2, it's 10:46, so I'm about 44 hours into this 72-hour fast. And as always, starting the day with some electrolytes. Got some supplements here, which I'll give you the breakdown in the cheat sheet, as I mentioned before. But main thing we're doing today is prepping the first meal that I will be breaking the fast with. Slow cooked beef, beef shoulder, nice high fat content, going to be broken down slowly over 24 hours. Lots of collagen, lots of soft protein that's easily digestible to avoid those anti-inflammatory spikes into the gut as soon as we break the fast. So got a load of nice root vegetables, celery, things that are going to be very kind again to that healing process of the gut once we come out. Weighed myself this morning, I'm about 2 kilos down in total, which will be mostly water weight glycogen, muscle glycogen that has now been used up in the liver. And yeah, in all honesty, I had a terrible night's sleep last night. Couldn't switch off, was having a lot of hunger pans and my HRV is showing it this morning. But going to be kind to myself today, listen to my body, take it nice and slow, get this food on the go, and going to do some breath work, going to get a little bit of light walking in, get in the sun, just do those things that make me feel good and really tune into the mental aspects of the fast. Going to do some reflection journaling, some questions, some planning for the week ahead, and just really get my mindset in the right place to now go into these final phases of the fast, where that's where autophagy really kicks in, the clearance of those dead cells and the restoration occurs. So got about a day left, but wish me luck. Keep you updated on the full recipe of this. As I said, is going to be in the cheat sheet, the fasting cheat sheet PDF you can grab afterwards. And let's see where this takes us. Then we get to 48 to 72 hours. This is where you are in the deep end. Autophagy and elevated ketone production is at its best. Your insulin sensitivity hits its peak, and your mitochondria, your body's energy producers, start working more efficiently. So if you've had gut issues like I did, this is where the lining starts minor regeneration, less bloating, better food tolerance later down the line. So by the time you hit that 72-hour mark, which is where I'm at now, you're feeling pretty depleted. With the right hydration and electrolytes, you've given your body a full system reset. But here's the catch. These benefits only show up if your system was resilient to begin with. And that's why most men don't get the results that they expect from fasting, because ultimately they're skipping steps. Yes, team, how are we? So it is now day 3, 71 hours into the fast. Feeling pretty flat, to be honest with you. Couldn't sleep last night, so HRV has been absolutely savaged. Made the mistake, the rookie error, couldn't sleep. I tortured myself, sat on Instagram scrolling a little bit, and all it was giving me was just amazing food recipes. But it's all good, we've made it through, got an hour to go. We'll be breaking fast with this lovely slow cooked 16-hour beef. Body weight is down another kilo, but it's irrelevant because I wasn't doing this for fat loss purposes. So we know it was all about the gut restoration protocol for me, and just having that break to allow autophagy to repair, resynthesize, if you want to put it like that. I'm going to go get sat in the sun soon, get some daylight, but really just appreciate and understand myself on a deeper level, my relationship with food, my emotional triggers around food, and it's been a real eye-opener. I got some amazing insights from it. Feeling flat as a pancake, but we're in the last legs. Time to go. So a question I get asked a lot, and maybe something that you're wondering too, is how did I personally get into fasting? Because I'll be honest, it wasn't through some, clean biohacker journey that began with. I'd actually dabbled in the past with the 16-8 method in what most guys consider the golden ticket. And I thought skipping breakfast was this cure and secret to longevity, but it wasn't the case, like most people find out. But it wasn't until after I did my powerthon, max squat bench deadlift, and ran a marathon in the same week. I was burnt out, I was overtrained, but more importantly I was underfueled, so I was under recovering. It led to a lot of inflammation, and my digestion was absolutely wrecked. That it wasn't until I started digging deeper that I found things like low stomach acid, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and the presence of things like parasites that we picked up in testing. It was all a mess. And extended fasting, it wasn't the first tool that I reached for, because it would have made things worse. Instead, we focused on rebuilding those foundational habits. Once I had things like blood sugar regulation in better, good food quality, mineral balance, and the inflammation was under control, that's when I layered in fasting, and that's when it started working. Now, before we go any further, I want to make something really, really, really clear. Now, if you've ever had a disordered eating tendencies or a history of eating disorders, fasting is probably not for you until you have come completely full turn on that, and you have the trust and the confidence in yourself to be able to do that, because it can promote restriction, it can promote obsession, control issues around food, and without the proper structure, it can create more problems than it solves. Which is why I always say fasting is not the starting point. You need to earn the right to fast, in my opinion, by mastering the basics. A lot of the time, friends that ask me about it, should I do fasting? Guys that love partying a lot. And I'm like, yeah, but you're just putting a plaster on a much bigger wound that needs addressing. You want to be focusing on daily movement, consistent resistance-based training across the week. Your sleep, it needs to be a proper routine with 7 to 8 hours tracked nutrition, mastering the 80-20 rule instead of binge restrict cycles. All of these things are so much more important before starting a fast. And, not to mention hydration, not just water, but electrolyte balance, stress regulation through things like breath work, journaling, proper boundaries. Learning to monitor your blood sugar control so that you have stable energy, fewer crashes. If those aren't nailed, fasting won't fix the deeper dysfunctions and will only temporarily add a benefit. And this is what people often experience, why they have these big ups and downs and crashes through fasting, because they're going from extreme of really unhealthy to a big change straight away, and it can be overwhelming. But once those foundations are actually in place, fasting can be an incredibly powerful tool. And I've used it for clients with gut dysfunctions or bloating that won't seem to shift, men who are constantly chasing dopamine through food, caffeine, or, alcohol, things like that. It can add a really, really powerful structured break for you to tune into yourself spiritually, understand yourself on a deeper level. And for a lot of executives dealing with inflammation, mental, brain fog, even though they're training and doing all the right things, when it's used strategically, fasting creates space, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, and you learn a lot about yourself in that process. So how do you do it right? Here's what I recommend. If you're ready for a 72-hour fast, start with a soft landing. We want to taper our food intake 1 to 2 days before, and I'll explain that more in the cheat sheet fasting protocol that you can download after this video. You want to hydrate aggressively, 4 to 5 litres a day with added sodium, potassium and magnesium. Track your HRV, your resting heart rate, and stress through something like a Garmin or an Oura. You want to be implementing light walks, sauna, cold exposure to keep that energy flowing. And then when it comes time to break the fast, we'll implement things like bone broth, eggs, avocado, simple, soft proteins, no massive cheat meals, no reward mentality. The focus is in control and easing yourself back in. But I'll cover every single thing in the cheat sheet protocol below this video. So here's what actually changed after 72 hours. As you can see on screen, the changes in body weight, my HRV improved, resting heart rate, stress levels came down significantly, my face and stomach were visibly depuffed. I felt a lot less inflamed overall in my body. But above all that, the win for me has just been clarity. The removal of background noise, no mental clutter, just space to think, feel and reset and tune into yourself. There's no contest, there's nothing like it. So if you made it this far, you're clearly not just curious, you're serious about getting this right. So what I've done is I've put together a high impact, no fluff cheat sheet PDF that walks you through the exact electrolyte ratios that I recommend during a fast, not just sodium and potassium, but magnesium in the right dosages and how to do them safely so that you reduce things like headaches and all of that fluff that can come with fasting. The 48-hour build-up protocol to make your fast more effective and hit the ground running with things like autophagy, and how to taper food, what to cut out and when, paired with my proven supplement stack that supports gut health, blood sugar and energy whilst just staying in a fasted state. We've also included the foods to break your fast with depending on your goals, but gut status and the refeed strategy, plus an introduction to fasting as part of a parasite cleanse protocol that we will be doing in the series, and really just provide you with all the steps you need to take before and after to make this as effective as possible. If you want access to this, just comment the word fast below or DM me the word fast on Instagram or Facebook and I'll send it straight over. Thanks for tuning in, guys.